Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, on this very, very weird Monday after the game.
It was a long weekend, Grump. I went to two Knicks games and a Giants game in the course of about under 30 hours. So I was a little tired and just you know, true to my namesake, a little cranky after the Giant game, obviously sitting in the Garden. But yeah, weird. It's such a rare. It's like seeing a no hitter in baseball. It just hardly ever happens, and it's weird when you're there. So we'll just have to talk about what that means, and how do we feel after that game?
Well, I'd say the NFL is good for what, like one tie a year, usually?
About yeah,
Maybe one a year, maybe one every 2 years. There are two this year. That
right.
happens. I've never experienced one, though. And I've certainly never experienced one in the stadium. It was
Well,
weird.
I mean, I remember going back to, I think it was 82. It was Parcells' first year. Giants and Cardinals played on a Monday night, and both teams were terrible, and they tied. And that year we finished 3-12-1. This is the second tie I've ever been to in person. The first one, of course, was the choke at Doak in '94 when Florida blew a 31-3 lead in the fourth quarter against Florida State, and those pussies didn't go for two to win the game, and we ended up tying 31-31. So, that felt, it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like somebody shot my kid. I was that upset after, so it was really bad. It was just kind of to me, it was more of a frustrating feeling of, we could have had this one, all the pregame hype about Washington, how they really turned the corner and watch out for them, and woe are the Giants. They don't win this game, they'll never win another one. I kind of feel better about our situation after the game, but damn it, it's just it's more of a what could have been than a feeling like we lost.
Well, what makes it really interesting is leaving the stadium. First of all, not that I'll ever understand this, but Washington fans were elated,
They're
and Giants
idiots.
fans and were dejected. And I was like, did we lose? Like, what's happening?
Well, the schmuck
Everyone,
who was the guy who was sitting next to us was an imbecile. I mean, that guy, all he cared about was just look at me, look at me, look at me for 4 quarters. So I don't care about that guy. But you're right. There was a sense like they've accomplished more than we did, and we could talk about what the implications are of this game, how it kind of eliminates a tiebreaker that wasn't in our advantage and all this stuff. But they definitely acted like, they've arrived, and it meant more to them that they tied other than, the fact that
they
they
didn't
didn't win.
lose. Yeah.
Right.
The worst thing about a tie is that it did feel like a loss. I mean, like going down the escalator, it was very much that same vibe. I've never experienced a tie before, but it felt exactly like it felt like when we lose, right? You just have hordes
Uh,
of people looking at the ground and they're just mad.
yeah, I think the stadium felt that. I think what I usually do in situations like that, and I did this also in that Florida game, was I immediately, my brain starts calculating, what does this mean? And that kind of preoccupies me of being just angry or upset of a loss. It was like, okay, what does this mean for, tiebreakers for the wild card and these different things? So that kind of preoccupied me for being angry or upset or that losing feeling.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't decide what the worst thing about a tie was. I couldn't decide if it was. Well, what do you think is the worst thing about a tie?
The worst thing about this tie or a tie period?
The worst thing about a tie?
It's just stupid. I mean, the sports where there are ties, are hockey and soccer. And there's a reason why there are ties because you are awarded points. You're rewarded, two for hockey for a win, one for a loss. It used to be you got 1 point for a tie. Soccer's 3-1. So a tie isn't the end of the world. It's just like, okay, you earned a point and you move on. It's the end of the season. There are no points in football. So it's you win or you lose. And
There's like this
not settling
nebulous.
anything is really stupid.
There's like a nebulous standings thing. It's like, well, we have something built in, but it doesn't happen often, so we don't really care about it.
And,
And it's just like, so take it out.
and then also they've changed the rules to have more ties. I mean, they made it shorter from 15 minutes to 10 minutes, makes it shorter. Now, I get it. There's a potential for more ties because of you kick the field goal, the other team gets a chance. But I'd rather have that option and have more ties than a team getting screwed by getting a kickoff and kicking field goal game over. But it's just, if we're so concerned about player safety, there's so many other different things they can do, like maybe not play Thursday night games, stuff like that.
I mean, that's my number one thing.
Of course, yeah. So I mean, they're hypocritical. Uh, you know, Play until somebody wins. I mean, how many games have we seen where there's no scoring for 2 quarters? It doesn't happen in football. So, if it somehow goes to the end of a period, keep playing, make the second overtime sudden death again or something. I don't know. It just seems dumb. It doesn't
Do you not
seem
like the way college does it?
Well, I mean, it's better than a tie.
I'm asking you.
Oh, the overtime in college.
Do you like it better? Yeah.
I like the overtime in college better than I do the pros.
Sure, me too.
Because it's more fair. I mean, if you play 60 minutes, each team has an equal shot to win and play. And this is primarily on winning a coin toss means so much more. And even if you don't, you get a first down or two, then you still punt and you pin the other team back. It's not the same fairness. And don't give me, well, you got to stop them on defense. That's bullshit. This is an offensive league.
That used to count. That used to be a valid argument. And then since like 2002, they've slowly been chipping away at what defenses are allowed to and are not allowed to do.
Yeah, so I like the college one better. Now they've also adjusted the college rules, so you don't have the 7 and 8 overtimes like you used to. It's after the first one, then you have to go for 2 and things like that. If you don't want to be here forever playing, but something, keep playing as much. Try to make the game as realistic as you can for as long as you can before you have to get to the more gimmicky things just to get it over with.
I couldn't decide. The worst thing about this tie is it. We sat through 10 minutes of excruciating agony just to leave with the same outcome anyway.
The worst thing about the tie is we didn't win a home division game and we still winless in the division. That to me is the worst thing about it.
I think also that I bought tickets to a must-win game just to see it get postponed until 2 weeks from now after I watched 3 hours of something else.
But I'll tell you something, people that are not upset about the tie are NBC because they flexed the second game to a Sunday night. So now you can promote it as the 5th quarter. You can promote it as whatever. Now we'll settle the score. I mean, that game was moved to Sunday night primarily because of the monster ratings between the Giants and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. And this is a team that people will attract eyeballs. You have an old rivalry, again settling the score of a game from 2 weeks earlier. It just happened. Means we're not going to Washington, Grump.
We also were exposed to Charles Leno talking about kissing his sister. That's another horrible thing that came about from this tie. And for the first time in my life, I have to think about playoff tie scenarios, which I think are actually fairly simple right now, which is mainly that they have to win against Washington and Indianapolis, and they should be okay.
I believe so. That's correct.
It's still going to be, that should be it. Nevertheless,
let me ask you a question. Before we break down the game itself, after this game, we're getting healthier than we were against Dallas, and we played reasonably well, and we'll break it all down. But do you feel better about the potential that we're not just going to get swept out of the 2 at Philly, the Minnesota game, all these other ones? It comes down to those 2, or do you still feel like those are 3 losses right off the bat?
No, I don't feel good about a single thing.
Okay. Not better than you did, or?
No, I don't feel any better than I did. Okay, I'll say this, and I want to. We'll start breaking down the game.
Yeah.
Here's what I feel good about. This is probably the first time that we saw most of this defense, at least the front, healthy, and it looked good.
Hmm.
Aziz Ojolari came back. This is his first game back, really. He played the whole game. They threw him in for 50 snaps. That's a decent chunk right there. And he
Hmm.
was impactful right away. One tackle, one sack with a forced fumble, two QB hits. Kayvon Thibodeau continued a hot streak. 5 tackles, 1 sack, 2 QB hits. Dexter Lawrence continues to be dominating. 9 tackles, 1 sack, 2 QB hits. Jahad Ward, that veteran presence on the defensive line, continuing to be reliable and relentless. 3 tackles, 1 sack, 2 QB hits. Even Justin Ellis got in on the show. 2 tackles, a sack, and a QB hit. Leonard Williams, 3 tackles, 1 QB hit. Even O'Shane Ximines, 2 tackles, a tackle for loss. The front four combined for 10 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
And this is Azeez Ojolari's first game back, and Leonard Williams didn't play in the fourth quarter.
And not only just 10 hits, it definitely seemed like Tyler Heineke was in distress and making decisions, faster than he wanted to a lot of the game.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we thought. That's what we hoped. But
Hmm.
I guess for me, for talking beyond this game, it was nice to see what we should have had all year on the defensive line.
Hmm.
It was, I really didn't know what to think of Aziz in his first game back. Like, I didn't, I wanted him to eat. I thought that there would be a good chance for him to eat, but it's a first game. I mean, he hasn't played in so long. Really think about, like, the last
Yeah.
full game he played was a year ago.
Right. Right.
So I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, obviously he's been practicing, right? So, like, it's not like he hasn't moved in a year. He
Right.
hasn't been, like, sedentary. But I didn't expect, whatever. He was pretty relentless for his first game back. And he's a good compliment to Kayvon. You can see it now. He's got the bend
Yeah.
that Kayvon doesn't have as much of. He has a little bit more speed, I think, around the edge. Um, they're a really really good combo, and it looks like they're both going to be here for quite a while.
Hmm.
And that's really really nice when you have Dexter Lawrence in the middle, and we think he's going to get extended as well. That's a nice little trifecta on the defensive line that I think most teams in the league are a little bit jealous of, right?
Well, and then Leonard Williams, I'm sure they'll probably do something with his contract to keep him around. I don't think they want to.
Maybe. I mean, they'll. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know how they view him and his money and his contract and his age and all that stuff, but I think it's definitely possible that they want to keep him around. I would not say that he's a guy that they can't wait to get rid of, like we could say with Kenny Galladay, right?
Oh, not at all, not at all. But I think the opposite. I think they want to find a way to keep him, as opposed to getting rid of him. But I don't think they can. It can work at these current terms. I think they're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, I do not think that they value him at the money that he is making.
Correct. That's
That's
correct.
that's right.
That's,
Defensively, also though, I thought Julian Love is continuing to have a really, really, really good year, especially with the extra work that he's got to do over Xavier McKinney. 12 tackles in this game. One was a tackle for a loss. He was all over the field. He nearly had a pick in a huge moment at the end of the game there.
hmm. Yeah. He's what's his contract story?
Free agent.
He's a free agent. So he is his agent is getting very happy with every game that's played with him.
Yeah, but it's also, this is very much earned for him
Oh,
because
of course.
he's but it's not just him playing well and deserving a contract. He's now taking on an increased role,
Hmm.
something that he shouldn't really be. If you want to field a really talented team, you really wouldn't have Julian Love pegged for your starting free safety.
Mm.
You know, he's a really good role player and he's got a spot and it's probably best in the box. But he's just taken on such a huge increased role. It's Xavier McKinney that has the radio helmet. It's really his job to get everybody lined up, and
Right.
without really missing too much of a beat, Julian Love jumped in there and did all that. And he's played well for multiple weeks now. Speaking of Xavier McKinney, I believe he's technically eligible to be taken off of the NFI lists, and we don't expect that though, right? I think his
No.
hand is probably a little bit more mangled.
I think it's gonna take a little while and just being available to come back.
Yeah. And I think when he comes back, I think he's going to be wearing a club, which means for a safety, I mean, just
Yeah.
batted balls, I guess. He's not going to get in too many picks.
Yeah.
I have broken many a bone in my life, and none have healed in 4 weeks. None. But all right, let's talk about the defense a little bit more here. I thought that they were really solid up front, like we mentioned, right? But where are they getting let down? How did they let 20 points from the Washington Commanders get on the board if they're so good, right? It's the back. The back end they're just hurt. Adoree Jackson being out is a massive, massive problem. Mm-hmm. Fabian Moreau is playing hurt, and that's not really helping. I think the biggest thing here, I know we could talk about needing to upgrade cornerback 2, maybe upgrading, the slot corner position, definitely upgrading the linebacking core. How about just the guys that we have learning to tackle?
Yeah, I was going to say, those are things we all know about, and it's not going to help anything this week, next week as we finish this playoff push. It's the biggest problem for this game was missed tackling. It was just mistakes that, are probably preventable, that, they extended drives. They caused
both
touchdowns.
Touchdowns were on broken tackles.
Exactly. So how did they score 20 points? Well, there's 14 right there.
14. The only other thing they gave up were 2 field goals, one of which was deep inside their own 10, maybe? Definitely in the red zone. It was right off of the Jones fumble at the beginning of the game. So this defense actually played extremely well. Kayvon Thibodeau nearly got a safety at the end of the game to win the game. Would have been outstanding to watch. What a cool way that would have been to end the game. Because it was fourth quarter with maybe 3 minutes left?
Well, it wouldn't have been much different than the end of the Baltimore game, right?
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, basically the same thing.
Yeah. Or was that in overtime when he made the sack? I don't think so.
I think it was, I don't remember. But
honestly, the fourth quarter and overtime blend for me.
Yeah.
Because it was that same level of nerves.
Yeah, that was the game I was in the car, so I wasn't listening on the radio with that one. So,
what are you talking about? What?
The Baltimore game, I was in the car. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting scenario on defense. I mentioned the poor tackling. Fabian Moreau was among them. Cordell Flott, very young, very raw, struggled to tackle, but also struggles in coverage a little bit. The most interesting thing is that, Darnay Holmes was out this week. He's hurt. He didn't practice. There was a chance he was going to be out. Zion Gilbert, a straight-up undrafted free agent, practice squad player, made his career debut. Played okay, I guess, up against the run and, in the box and whatever, but coverage-wise was just not good. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, Rodarius Williams, admittedly not a slot corner, got 0 snaps this week. Was upset about it.
Was not happy.
He made it known. But, I mean, he is coming off of a game where he played his first game back from a torn ACL and got an interception against a far better team and a better quarterback with better receivers.
Yeah.
I think legitimate gripe, probably. The back end did not do any favors for them. I'm not going to sit here and put Rodarius Williams on some pedestal like he's anything more than the 5th or 6th round pick or whatever that he was, whatever. But when put on the field, he has performed. And there's nothing more you can ask for a guy. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. It doesn't matter where you went to college. None of that matters.
It did last week. If you did well last week, you should. I mean, we're not talking about, getting every snap. We're talking about getting demoted to not even seeing the field at all. I mean, unless there's something going on behind the scenes which we're unaware of. But
well, here's the thing, right? Darius Slayton was buried on the depth chart at the beginning of the year, and it was only until injury and I guess injury between Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, etc. Sterling Shepard, I think, also got injured before he finally saw the field. And then it was clear as day that the dredges of wide receivers that they were parading out in front of him on the depth chart with David Sills, who we have not seen in many weeks now, all these guys that were getting playing time ahead of him were clearly worse receivers. Mm-hmm. They were also guys that this regime, I don't know, either valued or what. I mean, David Sills is an undrafted free agent, so he may be a prior regime guy, but he's also not an investment like Darius Slayton is. He didn't have any trade value like Darius Slayton might have. They might have kept Slayton on the shelf for, trade potential or something like that. But Rodarius Williams is straight up not their guy. But you know who is? Nick McLeod, Cordell Flott, Zion Gilbert, all their guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to make me wonder, man. And I hope that this isn't why. I hope this isn't why people are sitting, because it's foolish in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, that's it. If that's the case, it's so idiotic. It makes me question their judgment, and I don't think I want to do that yet. I don't think that's the case. I mean,
I should
if
hope not.
right,
But
I mean, if you're trying to prove a point that well, those are not my guys, why are they on the roster? But purge them at the beginning of the season in training camp, whenever.
well, I guess so. Nick McLeod, they've rolled with for a while. Rodarius Williams was legitimately hurt. He was on IR when they began rolling with him, and he played. He's okay in coverage. He's not a guy that should be starting, but he's a guy in
These guys
depth.
get snaps.
Yeah,
Snaps.
but I mean, I like him. I'm even I've defended Nick McLeod in the past. I liked him from the moment he started getting preseason snaps. I was like, oh, this isn't bad. I could handle this if we need to use this. But Cordell Flott, I said right from the get go that I was super excited about that draft pick, but he's very young. He's very raw. He has issues in his game. He's getting snaps over Rodarius Williams, who I didn't like as a draft pick with the prior regime, but was instantly wooed by the way he played on the field. So I don't know, man. It's less so about Zion Gilbert for me because I think he was relegated more to the slot. I didn't watch snap by snap and take tally, but Cordell Flott is not. And, I don't know. I really hope that this isn't the same thing that's just a stupid coaching thing where coaches just like their guys and that's it. I hope this isn't
So I
it.
think if we were out of it, if this is week 1 or week 2, I'd buy into it more. But I mean, we are staring the playoffs right in our face. And if they are going to be that stubborn and say, which just doesn't make any sense. And I just don't believe you're that rigid on, at this point in the season, at this, again, you win this game, you have an inside track for the wild card.
100%. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to sit talent in any scenario. I mean, you should be pulling out all the stops, the annexation of Puerto Rico play from Little Giants. If it works, it works. Score points, win this game.
Right.
So I don't know what to think. I hope it's not that, but I can't think of a real reason why Rodarius Williams wouldn't get snaps in this game. I can't.
Unless there's some sort of injury we don't know about, unless there's some sort of disciplinary thing we don't know about. I mean, those make much more sense to me than just, all right, did good last week. Now that was your chance, and you're just going to sit.
So I would think that because he did take to Twitter a little bit to vent his frustrations with not playing. And I would think that if it were a disciplinary reason, he would know it and that wouldn't happen, right?
Most likely,
it's not like it's like, hey, he's been a pain in the ass this week, we're gonna sit him. Like it's usually like, you did this, you're not playing now. You know what I mean? Like
right. Well, who knows? I mean, these guys, I
guess
kids are spoiled. They can do whatever they want. Who knows?
Tate Crowder also vented his frustration for not playing. Tate Crowder has been a starter for a long time. He has had his ups and his downs. I know everybody likes to shit on him for his mistakes. He also does make some really nice splash plays. He's a bit of a gambler with jumping gaps. When he guesses right, he always makes a really good play. He'll go right through the gap like a running back, and he'll make a tackle in the backfield. But sometimes he's wrong, and guys go through his empty gap for big gains. So he has legitimate reasons to be sat, and he's also had his chances to show that he's cleaned up this, that, and the other thing in this game. My question to you is... Wait, hang on. My question to you is, with now two guys on the same side of the ball complaining about their playing time, are you worried about vibes in the locker room?
If they would have lost, yes. I think the tie makes it kind of a pass, and you're on to next week. We've got to be careful though, because they have lost 3 of the last 4, and now 3 of the last 5 with the tie thrown in.
The only game that they've won in the last 5 was against the worst team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, that did not look like a team that had checked out at all. That there were a lot of opportunities to lose that game late, and they on defense they nutted up and they prevented field, they caused, just a field goal or making them punt, in late in the fourth quarter and overtime. So uh, the effort is still there. The will to win looks like it's still there, but you know, we'll have to see. I don't, I'm not concerned just yet.
Okay. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit. I'll say this much: the locker room vibes are very clearly different over the last couple weeks, right?
I don't know. I'm not in the locker room.
Well,
I
okay. The
Yeah.
player vibes are definitely off. They're not winning,
Yeah.
and there's a lot less. I don't know. It's very much exactly how it was under Joe Judge, exactly how it was under Pat Shermer. It's just, it is what it's just very much like the same old like things that players say when they lose. It's like, oh, we'll just have to get back at it. We'll have to do this, that, and the other thing. Really work on it. I'm gonna have to work on this, and it's like, it's very. I mean, I know that, but that's what happens when you lose. They tied.
That's called losing. It doesn't matter who I mean, if
But they tied. They didn't lose. I don't know, man. Tying feels like losing. This was a must-win game, and they didn't win.
Sure.
Um,
I think they would feel differently. I think they would feel differently if they were down 10 points, came back, tied it, and they just ended up a game in a tie. I think they'd feel differently if it was on the road. I think they'd feel differently.
You mean if the score stayed 10-10? Is that what you're saying?
No,
they were down 10 points and came up and tied it. That's exactly what happened.
Like late coming back. I mean,
oh, okay.
We were up. They blew the lead.
Yeah, it was 2013.
Right. But I'm saying, let's say they were down, 20-7, and they came back.
So from your perspective, okay, so then that speaks to the Washington Commander fan mentality of they came back to tie it. They prevented a loss, even if they didn't win.
They were a little over the top because it wasn't an heroic comeback. It wasn't an historic comeback. It
was a fucking missed tackle.
Yeah, it was just sort of happened, and it wasn't in the last minute of regulation. It wasn't one of those things like, a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, and just, it was just like they scored, and we didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, and it was overtime. So that was a lot of, and again, we'll use our experience of the guys who were sitting right directly around us.
Well, I mean, he was a drunk asshole.
The second that guy walked in, he was an asshole.
Also, those weren't their seats.
That's true. We really should start just narking on people and who are not in their seats.
I mean, I don't want to be that guy.
I'm starting to think I do, because
it's one of those things, man. Like, I want people to have fun, and I don't care if you're wearing the other team's colors or whatever. But first of all, your back shouldn't be to the field.
The second you turn around and you're looking at fans because look at me, what's up? It's fair. It's a game on, and there's one thing to be a fan and root for your team, and there's another where the focal point becomes you.
I'm the visiting fan, so they're gonna pick on me. I'm going to go ahead and be loud right away.
I'm gonna be the
one who sticks out. And it's like a me first kind of thing, where it's just like, before you guys rag on me, I'm gonna make myself known, and it's just really annoying. It's not something I do, and I don't really care and I honestly don't care if someone from the other team, whatever, stands up next to me and is cheering and is high-fiving other guys, whatever, when they score. That's all fine.
There's nothing wrong, because we'll do the exact same thing in another stadium. But
hell yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do. It's called being a fan. I mean, the day StubHub came into existence, and the day they legalized scalping, and the day they encourage it, secondary markets, that's the atmosphere that are in stadiums now. There is no more universal home field advantage where there's 70,000, even in places like Green Bay or Dallas or Kansas City. Watch them play a team like, a big popular fan base that's on the road. There's a lot of blue in Lambeau when the Cowboys are playing the Packers and things like that. But the thing is, again, be a fan. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. All right. So let's flip this to the other side of the ball. By the way, I gave out stars to the entire defensive line and
Same.
Julian Love. They got stars for me. The only stars. Defense got a fart for tackling, and I'm gonna
Same.
flip another fart over to the offense. John
Okay.
Feliciano and Mark Lewinsky, both of them. The interior. I mean, let's face it. This is a very good interior defensive line for Washington. These guys have been pretty not good most of the year. Mark Lewinsky, I mean, right away was not good and continued to not be good throughout the
Let
whole
me ask
length
you
of this
something,
game.
Grump. Do you give a fart for someone who just is what he is?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. He got a 3-year contract. He's got to live up to better than that. And
Okay.
also, I mean, the sack on Daniel Jones in the very beginning, which I think he only got sacked once or twice. He got beat so immediately, it's not even funny. I mean, really just a two-hand swipe, hands off of him, and Jerome Payne's right around him. It was just like, okay. And, like, I think in that moment, it was like the first drive of the game. I was like, death taxes and Mark Lewinsky chasing after the guy he was supposed to be blocking. And it just continued to happen the whole game. I'm going to give anyone a fart. I don't care if that's who he is. Because he's not Jack Anderson. He was signed to be here.
Well, doesn't
You know
the
what I
fart
mean?
look at Joe Shane
What?
at this?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, he commanded money on the open market. Do you know what I mean? He has to. He doesn't have to live up to the numbers. I guess it's not really his responsibility what he was given. But either way, he's the free agent. He's not the undrafted free agent guy or whatever. I mean, he was brought here to be a starter, and he's played like shit.
Right. So I guess I think the fart goes to both. It was a bad signing.
He's not that bad. He's not. No.
Okay, move on. Yeah, it's
I'm
fine.
not. I'm not going down that road. It's like Joe Shane had to sign somebody with limited money. So what? I'm supposed to punish him because of the cap situation he was in?
No.
It's okay for Mark Lewinsky to be a starter at this point in his career and should have played better and has played bad all year. Quite frankly, has not been
Yeah,
good all year.
that's what
I
I mean.
said
It's
it.
like-
I said it weeks ago, months ago. But he's not that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He is named the starter. He earned the starting spot. He has to play better. I don't want to hear this. He is who he is. Shit. That's what you say when you have a 5'10" wide receiver that has to play outside or something. It's like, well, that's not him.
Well, he
You know
also
what I mean?
kinda has
That's
to
not
play
his
now
game.
too, wouldn't you say?
What?
He has to play now. I mean, we just the lack of talent we have on this offensive line right now. He has to
Doesn't
play.
matter. He was handed the starting spot because we don't have anybody else.
Right. That's what I'm
Is
saying. So I mean, it's kind of it is what it is right now.
I guess he had it
Yeah.
even when people were healthy, though.
I mean, do you think he'll be here
At this
in a
point,
year or
at
two?
this point, Ben Bredesen we're better off with him at right guard.
Yeah. Oof. It's a sorry state, but it's true.
But no, and to answer your question as far as farts go, I'm never going to not give a fart. If someone deserves a fart, they deserve a fart, and we
Okay.
established that a long time ago.
Okay.
But John Feliciano has been on and off. He's had games where he was good enough. It's always been scrappy play. He's had games where he's bad. He was not that great in this game, but the taunting call is brutal. And I don't want to hear the excuse like I was flexing at Slayton. I don't care.
That's bullshit. Yeah.
It's
relax.
also it's just dumb.
Right.
Just fucking I don't know, high five the guy, whatever. I don't care. The rule's not new this year either. So isn't it new last year?
And it's something that gets called. I was watching a game last week and I saw the exact same. I don't remember what game it was. The exact same thing happened, and the official saw it and threw and they threw the flag way up in the air, like the emphatic flag throw. That's what happened.
I will say the officials were okay in this game. I would say they were a little shoddy with some ball placement. They were a little inconsistent with their PIs. There were some weird clock things, but overall, I would say it was not leaning one side or another. No. And I would also say that nothing was like super duper egregious. That was just like, I don't know. And also, I have a flat mandate that you never let a game be in a situation where the officials can take it from you. Just don't do it because they'll screw up calls. They're human. And there are replay rules that do not allow every single facet of the game to be looked at. That just is a fact. So as a player, as a team, as a coach, you have to keep the game out of the reach of the referees to fumble it for you. And they didn't do that. I guess there was like some kind of bullshit with offsides. They definitely were holding Richie James in a clock scenario. That kind of savvy veteran shit happens all the time.
Right.
People lay on top of guys, whatever. This was a little more clear where he got up and was clearly trying to put the ball down where it belongs, and he was getting held. It also was all of like 1 or 2 seconds. If the penalty is extra yards, okay, I get it, but I don't know. Overall, I'm not going to blame the officials for calling what the rule is. It's still the rule. And the problem with this rule is that you'll never be able to tell who is flexing at who and over who and who's aimed at whoever. It's just, maybe just don't do that shit. Maybe do it to absolutely nobody. And by the way, John Feliciano, if you're not the one who made the play, don't do anything. Exactly. High five the guy who gets to flex. Maybe do that. But I think my big thing about that, and even in the moment, I didn't blame him that much. It's the justification in the locker room, saying that you're having to play 2 teams and all this other horse shit. Just own up to the fact that you had to eat that one, and it's your fault.
Yeah.
That we negated a 15-yard play. Essentially,
yeah.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
And you can be mad about it, but the official just did his job.
Yeah. And it's going to be called every time. And
the rule is set up where it's an interpretation of the official as to who's doing what. It's all interpretation, so don't leave it up to them. I don't fucking know. I get it. You want to celebrate, but
call me old man who shakes his head at the clouds or whatever. But this whole shit has to slow down. This constant look at me, celebrating every little thing like it's they just won the Super Bowl. This borderline taunting on almost every play. It's like enough. None of you guys are original. You're all copying each other. It's not fresh. It's not cool. You just look like assholes, and it costs your team. And I don't know, if the union's protecting these guys, their freedom of expression, if they think it's trying to attract younger audiences or whatnot. But it's so distracting, and it's I think detrimental to the sport.
Well, all right. Well, I don't want to like go down too much of this path, but I agree with you. But I can tell you exactly what it is. The NFL likes it. You know why the NFL likes it? Because it's free marketing. They take all those clips, even if they got penalized on it, and they put it on commercials, whatever. They love this shit.
Sure.
They love this shit because little kids love this shit. And little kids tell their parents they want this jersey, that jersey, whatever. It's marketing. That's all it is marketing. Yeah. So the NFL likes it. So they want the big team running toward the end zone camera and celebrating a turnover, and They love seeing Ezekiel Elliott jump into the stupid Salvation Army jar. They love that stuff. So that's why it's still allowed. I've not been a fan. I used to make fun of Jeremy Shockey for every...
When we get to our division roundup, I have a couple of things to say about Dallas, about shit like that. So just hold it for now. Yeah.
Yeah. My last thing is I've held this opinion for a long time now, and it used to date back to Jeremy Shockey. Literally every single catch, he would have something. It's just like, dude, it was like a 4-yard out route. Can you chill out?
You don't remember.
Not saying that he wasn't a good player or made exciting plays, but it would be literally every catch. He had something. And it's just like, infuriating.
Yeah, you don't remember the Hurricanes in the 80s, and he's a legacy of that. But like they were so obnoxious. They, a Michael Irvin or one of these guys would make a first down catch, take their helmet off, and do almost bowing for making a first down catch. That's the culture, and he's a product of that. And it made so many people hate that team, myself included. And you're right. It's so. Again, we sound like old men, but I think a lot of us agree with us as much as the kids who love it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but and also like, I don't know, I'm a bit of a rah-rah person anyway, but even I still wouldn't do shit like this. It's just like
it's really no different than the asshole sitting next to us who has to turn around and make it.
Oh, dude, me. Literally pounding his chest after not winning a game. I was completely befuddled.
But these guys who do all this stupid shit, they turn it into "look at me" as opposed to let's celebrate. Let's spontaneously celebrate and be general emotion of a great play happening. It turns to, look at me, choreographed. Look at me.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Fuck 'em.
Offense side of the ball. This is where it gets interesting. And this is pretty much where they lost the game. So Daniel Jones, interesting stat line here. Mm-hmm. He threw the ball 31 times. Mm-hmm. Okay. He ran it 12.
Mm-hmm.
He was 25 of 31, but for only 200 yards. One
Mm-hmm.
touchdown, 4 sacks. 12 carries, 71 yards. That's pretty impressive. One fumble. But I want to wrap into this Saquon Barkley as well. 18 carries for 63 yards, a touchdown. 5 catches on 5 targets for 18 yards.
Bef-
I
before
want
you,
your thoughts. I want your thoughts.
well, my first thought when you give up, Daniel Jones numbers was, what if I told you Daniel Jones was 26 for 32 for 245?
Is that the Darius Slayton drop?
Yes.
Okay. Those are...
Very good numbers.
They are very good numbers, but you are adding only one throw, so it's throwing what a perceived average is.
That's true,
Like
but also
when I read those numbers, like if you were to tell me right now, I'm not watching the Bucks, I'm not watching the Bucks game right now, but if you told me the stat line at the end and you told me that it was 26 of 32 for 245 yards and a touchdown, whatever, I would assume a much different game than what was actually played on the field. That's what I'm saying.
and also if I told you that basically he threw to 3 receivers. I mean, we're looking at Slayton, Hodgkins, and Richie James. That's it for his receivers. He's a lot of it. There's 5 to Bellinger, great returning him. 5 to Barkley, 1 to Breda. It's just the options for a more vertical passing game just aren't there right now, other than one guy.
I completely agree with you, and I
Yeah.
understand that, and I think that's kind of where everything goes. So I know that people like to parse through Daniel Jones' stats on a week-by-week basis and give a state of the union of whether or not he should return, what this means about him, and the argument that it's like, well, why does everything have to be perfect for him? It's like, well, it doesn't. But what would you like a good quarterback to do with the game plan that they were given? What would you like a good quarterback? What does a good quarterback's numbers look like with this group? Is it better than 25 of 31? What is it? Is it 30 of 31? Like, do you think that suddenly because, Aaron Rodgers is back there, that the exact same receivers are suddenly getting more yards? It's not because Daniel Jones can't air it out. It's these receivers can't catch. They can't run routes. They're not threatening.
Let's remember, the plan for opening day was Sterling Shepard, was Kadarius Toney, it was Wendell Robinson. Yes, it was Kenny Golladay. And
He wasn't active for this game, so it's not like he was benched.
no. But I'm getting to a point of those are 4 guys that were penciled in to really be ahead of Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
So my point is, right now, who you're relying on for QB1 is a guy that really didn't figure into their plans. He was down in the practice squad for a bit, right?
Wide receiver 1. No, I don't believe so.
Darius Slayton was never on the practice squad. He never was dropped down.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you can look it up if you want, but I don't ever remember seeing it.
I think he was.
Okay.
But the point was, he was not in the rotation. And
absolutely. And we established that at the beginning. He was absolutely buried on the depth chart.
Right. And now we're relying on him. Daniel Bellinger, glad he's back. He was out for a while, but he's still a 4th-round draft pick. He is not Tony Gonzalez.
Nope.
So, again, him coming back, people think all of a sudden there's going to be this, massive shift in the way this offense is going to be executing and.
Well, I mean, I thought there would be a shift in how they would be executing offensively, but not really in the passing game. I thought he was going to offer up, I mean, the routes that he really runs with success in this offense are the same routes that we've been running with other tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was that he was a better blocker as well as a, viable option. Where I expected the shift to be maybe he would be a little bit more open. He would get a couple more yards out of it. But it's not like he was going to suddenly be running, 15-yard out routes or, running up the seam like a madman. Yeah, exactly. I didn't expect that. But I did expect, maybe it's like 2 more yards on average per play. that he gets thrown the ball. And I also thought he would affect the running game. The running game, I do want to talk about Saquon Barkley because I don't want to harp on Daniel Jones for forever.
No, I think we're done with him because there's a couple of.
By the way, overall, in a word, Daniel Jones, this game, he
did everything he could to help us win. Without Daniel Jones, we're far worse.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I had no issues one way or another. Saquon Barkley, on the other hand, 18 carries, 63 yards. He got the touchdown. In general, it just, I don't know. I don't want to. This is a really tough defensive line. I will give Washington that every day of the week. They have a very talented defensive line. They have a really good defensive-minded coach. Two of them, actually, Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. And we have a very bad interior offensive line. Nevertheless, this is just another game in which Barkley is nullified by what's around him. These difference makers that you get at the skill positions, if they are completely nullified by other things, are they difference makers? I mean, by other things on your own roster. I mean, like, is Christian McCaffrey this ineffective? You know what I mean? Like, these are the kind of questions that go through my mind. And I'm not saying yes or no. These are the things that I wonder because I don't know. This team is just very, very far away at fixing the interior of this offensive line because I don't think they're getting three guys in the middle. I'm not entirely sold on Josh Azudu, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm not. I never really was. I think he can grow, and it's fine. We're still kind of far
away from knowing that answer, too. I mean, it's his first year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're not even ready to make that determination. Are we keeping him or getting rid of him? He's still a rookie. I don't know. Does he look like the same runner? Just how he's like hitting holes and moving around like he was in the beginning of the year, or does it look like normal wear and tear now that we're in week 12 or 13, or you think there's something physically wrong with him?
I don't think there's anything physically wrong with him. I think it's the normal wear and tear. I think it's the workload. I think this was a tough matchup for him. Say that much. I also don't think they used him the way I thought they would. I thought we'd see a little bit more of him on the outside. Mm-hmm. We didn't really see a whole lot of that. Some of the plays in which we did, there was one play where he got knocked for like a 5-yard loss where he just straight up got popped, not even that hard, and just kind of stumbled backwards and fell over. And that is very not Saquon Barkley.
In a perfect world, how many rushes a game should he have?
I think 18 is right.
18?
Don't you think 18 to 23 based on the opponent, the matchup, whatever?
Yeah.
And the game plan, right?
That's what I feel. Let's say let's use a number of 20, a round number.
Yeah,
so
fine.
This year, he has gone over 20, 2, 4, 5, 6 times. He has it in the last 3 weeks. That Houston game, he had 35 carries, and since then, he's had 15, 11, and 18. So they're not. I mean, it's a little more than we would like, but he's only gone over 30 twice. The Chicago game and the Houston game. That Houston game, we both thought they went into a shell and just were being pretty conservative and just trying to run the game out. And he also had 152 yards. So he was very effective too. But I don't get the sense like he's, Derrick Henry, where they're just riding this guy, just wearing him down to a nub.
No, I don't think anymore. I think just in general, I think it's just the general wear and tear for him. It's the first full season he's played in.
Yeah.
How long?
3 years.
Yeah. He hasn't played a full season in a long time. His shoulder hurts. He's got a shoulder injury. And that's the kind of thing that you just kind of chisel in into the interior lines and bust through holes or whatever. So
right.
I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's also, this is a good defensive front. The last couple of weeks, the offensive line, especially in the middle, has been banged up. So we've had backups in there. Nick Gates shouldn't. It is insane to me that Nick Gates is playing. Mm-hmm. It's wacky that he's playing a year removed from nearly losing his leg.
And that just tells you all you need to know about the offensive line, where if this line was better, he'd be on a little, maybe not as accelerated rate of having to come back and be
absolutely. He would be a backup.
Guy.
He would be a backup.
Right.
It's It's pretty nuts. I think that's all it is with Barkley. I don't think he's gotten worse. I don't think anything like that. Let's bring this to the offense here. The bigger question is, are they just conservative? Have they changed on offense? I would say it's indisputable that Brian Dable and his aggressiveness, generally speaking, game decisions, not the game plan, not a play-by-play
Yeah,
basis, game decisions has been markedly less aggressive than the beginning of the year.
I would agree, but I also think you know your team more throughout a season, and I think injuries play a fact in it also.
I don't think they do. They started the year hurt.
I don't know. I how many instances really of the aggressiveness, like I guess going for it on fourth down, you're saying, as opposed to the game plan? Because you know,
Yeah, things like that. Going for two against Tennessee, choosing to punt on 4th and 1 from like the 40, things like that.
hmm
I mean, there's certainly
yeah,
more instances of conservative behavior in recent weeks than in the beginning of the year. They were very aggressive at the beginning of the year. They took
hmm
chances. And I mean, it's not far fetched either to think, and I think it's very human to be like, well, they kind of had a fuck it year. This was a
yeah.
fuck it year. This was we're rebuilding. We're going to do the best we can. We might as well just do whatever.
I'm gonna
Then
build.
they started protecting a lead.
Yeah, I'm gonna build a culture here. I'm gonna get total buy-in from these players that something. If we don't win, we're gonna have a go for it attitude. And maybe that's not the smartest decisions once playoffs are on the line, or a win is on the line. But I don't think the game plans are conservative. I've seen a lot of that, and I've seen a lot of, well, this coaching staff doesn't trust Daniel Jones, so they're in more of a shell than they used to. The evidence isn't there. I mean, look at the play-by-play of this game. After you know we took the lead, or just we basically threw almost every play. We know that the series after they tied it, we threw two back-to-back bombs. That's not being conservative. That's not having trust in your quarterback. I just think it comes down a lot to execution. I think if these plays work, I don't think people are, concerned about that, because it's easier to run plays and be more aggressive when it's 2nd and 3 as opposed to 2nd and 9 and 2nd and 10.
Yeah, I think that a lot of their decisions that make them perceived as conservative are conservative or protecting people other than Daniel Jones. Actually,
I agree. I completely agree.
you have an offensive line that is more banged up than it was and is clearly playing worse. I think they're protecting the offensive line from being an absolute disaster, and so they're running a lot of very, very short routes. I know everyone wants to bring up the air yards for Daniel Jones and immediately be like, see, he can't throw deep. He absolutely can throw deep. He did it at Duke. He did it here. He did it under Pat Shermer. He actually does it very well. What he needs is a pocket in order to do it. And they can, for a couple of plays here and there, protect him long enough to throw a couple bombs, but not consistently. The offensive line isn't good enough to consistently give him a passer's pocket for intermediate and deep routes. So they have to manufacture other ways. And quite frankly, they're not good enough at running plays and run blocking to run the ball as often as they want to. So they have to do these pseudo other things where Barkley motions out of the backfield and you hit him in stride in the flat to then turn it up. It's like an extended running play.
Exactly.
All of these things are just extensions of the running. These jet things that are literally 1 yard downfield that Daniel Jones goes on a rollout and throws it. All that stuff, they're just masking bigger problems with the offense, not with Daniel Jones. As evidenced by Daniel Jones dropping back from time to time and throwing bombs, especially in the 2-minute drill situation. I'll give the offense this. They, again, scored points in a 2-minute situation at the end of the first half. It wasn't super pretty, but again, they did it.
This isn't figure skating where there's judges who are evaluating how pretty you are. It's to get the job done.
It's just points, man.
Yeah.
It's just
And
points.
then again, after all those things do work, there is time in the pocket. He does throw deep. You've got to have receivers who can catch. And Darius Slayton, again, is really wide receiver 5 on this team. And the biggest knock on him has been drops
His
balls at the most
hands.
inopportune time.
Yeah.
And you know, that's it wasn't a perfect throw. I'll give Slayton a little bit
Yeah,
of
but I hate this shit where it's just like, why does Daniel Jones have to be perfect? If the
I,
argument is that why does everything
I'm
have to
not
be
no, no,
perfect
no,
for
I'm
Daniel?
not saying.
I know, I understand. I'm preempting the people at home who are like, see, he just said it wasn't perfect. I'm If everything has to be perfect for Daniel Jones, then why does Daniel Jones have to be perfect? I don't understand that dichotomy of that argument.
Perfect should
It
not be
doesn't.
the enemy of the very, very good. And it was a good throw. It's a ball that should be caught.
In my
And
opinion, I
it was.
thought Darius Slayton tracked it poorly. I think
Mhm.
partially because people pointed out he was really just running a clear out route that Daniel Jones saw that they were going to cheat on and he would be open. There may have been, this is really not designed to be an actual target on that play, but either way, he slowed up, he turned to his inside shoulder, he just he adjusted. At one point, his entire back is to the end zone where he's leaping to make the catch. He kind of mistimes his jump. I don't want to say it's 100% Darius Slayton's fault. The play is a little wonky. It was a gamble shot. The throw was not perfect, but Darius Slayton screwed up all over the place on that
That's an
play.
85% Darius Slayton fault.
Yeah.
And
And I think he knows it too,
Tom Brady just did it again.
which is,
Drove down the field, scored with 3 seconds left. They kicked this extra point. They're going to win.
huh, interesting.
Again, they looked absolutely awful for 59 minutes and 57 seconds. Well,
What are you going to do? I agree with you. I don't think that the game planning is conservative, or I don't think that they're protecting Daniel Jones, or
not in the least.
they don't. It's not that they don't have trust in him to run the plays. They are running a game plan with the personnel that they have on the field. I think. I agree with you there.
Completely.
I
So,
will say that it's shitty. It sucks. Like the game plans on a week by week, like it's frustrating to watch. Is it not?
it is frustrating. Well, you know something?
But it's also like a game plan
It
that
seems like it's
wants to
kind of
highlight.
effective, though. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like they can move. This is not. They have to punt 7 times. This is not like that. I mean,
They did punt 7 times.
they punted 7 times.
Yeah, look it up.
Wow, I just picked that number randomly out of a number, but
I mean, they went into overtime too. So
they went in overtime. But well, let me amend that. Maybe not playing stuff, but it doesn't seem like a 3-and-out offense. Like just.
ooh, you might want to look up those 3-and-out stats there, buddy.
It doesn't feel like it, I guess.
On a week by week, I mean, what it does feel like is it's waiting for players to make a play, and they're running out of skill players. Like Darius Slayton making plays is he's beating one guy. You're relying on the athleticism of a guy to beat another guy, and that's it. Because from then on, it's just like a foot race or whatever. Now, I mean, one of the best options we have is not fast. It's Daniel Bellinger. I mean, this is an offense that's designed for a Wan'Dale Robinson to put a foot in the ground and go the other direction and make 11 guys chase him. We don't have Wan'Dale Robinson right now. We have a bunch of guys whose names are mysteries.
We had in this game
there's like 4 3-and-outs in there in the second half alone.
2, 3, 4. We had 4.
And how many 4-and-outs? I think there's 2. Maybe 1.
1.
It's an offense that's designed for one guy to make a move, make people miss, and we don't have guys that can move. Yeah, exactly. So it's frustrating to watch, but I don't think it's because of lack of trust in Jones.
I agree. And now this is the first week we're starting to see people starting to turn their attention to. I don't know if Mike Kapka is the guy. I mean, again, just kind of what we were just saying. Players got to play. If you don't got the players, it doesn't matter who the coordinator is, really.
And also, for a couple weeks ago, we were mentioning some wonky things here and there with the offense. I was like, he's a first-year coordinator. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be instances where you're like, what the hell was he doing? We do that now with entrenched offensive coordinators.
Can we also, I don't know if this is the right thing or not to do, but let's go back to what we thought this offense was going to be in this team back in August. I mean, this offense, I still think is better than I thought it was going to be before, when the season started. Like Daniel Jones is better than I thought he would be.
I don't even know how to comment on that. Yeah, I guess Daniel Jones is better. I don't know how to comment on that. I couldn't envision this being the offense like what we saw on Sunday because like half the personnel isn't playing
Yeah.
that I thought at the beginning of the year. So
But overall, I actually think this offensive line overall is playing better than I expected it to be worse. I thought, you know, Daniel Jones would be running for his life most of the time.
yeah, I guess so.
And Barkley has fallen off in the last quarter of the season, but he's had a pretty decent year,
Yeah.
which he would not have had last year, I don't think. I mean, again, this is not the greatest show on turf. This isn't one of the all-time great offenses. I'm not saying that, but based on what my outlook was on this team in July, I think it's better.
I guess so. I think when we were gushing over this team and the things were just like were we aggressive, I will say a lot of the wacky formations and cool little motion plays or whatever, we're not seeing them as much as we were, right? And even I would say that we're getting downright predictable. I called the touchdown play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we love that route in the end zone. It's just I don't know. I understand where people are coming from with the conservative thing. I don't understand where people are coming from with they don't trust Daniel Jones. But I ultimately don't think either are true. I don't think that they're. I guess the conservative nature is really just it's not working. A lot of what they ran worked better at the beginning of the year.
I tweeted that this morning. I was like, is it as simple as just execution? That they're just now, players make coaches look a lot better, and they make them look a lot worse. Again, we talked about Daniel Jones's numbers. Well, if you add one play where there's execution, where a pass is completed, those numbers look a lot nicer. And then it's really hard to say it's conservative when he's throwing for 245 at least, and who knows how the rest of that drive would have turned out. It could have been more.
Yeah. All right. You want to go around the league? Philly won. Dallas won. We in Washington tied. So it's like a pretty brutal weekend for us.
I know that. I know it was the Colts, but this Cowboy team is starting to scare me as being, a legitimate, really, really, really good team. Now, they 150% ran up the score in that game. I mean, they're going for two and doing trick plays up late and being genuine assholes about it, but they're really getting on a roll right now.
I'm not that. I don't know. I'm still not that. Right now, I'll say this. If CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, they're screwed. Even right now, it seems like he is the engine of this offense. And then off of that, they're kind of mixing in some Gallup and some Dalton Schultz.
And running the ball well, too.
And running the ball. Yeah, but CeeDee Lamb is making things happen. Like, I mean, he's just not touching the ground on plays. He's just bouncing off of defenders that are laying there, scoring touchdowns on plays he should have been tackled. Like, things like that, that's what makes them scary. If he gets hurt or something like that, like, they're just the same Cowboys that are mostly good and then shit the bed when things go wrong. So, yeah, I mean, they're really good. I'm not freaking out over it.
I think now I'm more worried about them than Philly.
That's where I think you're out of your mind. Because that's a quarterback that literally can make things happen. Dak Prescott, I do not believe, is a guy who makes things happen. Dak has, since the moment he's been here, been in a perfect situation.
That's fine, but that perfect situation is rolling right now, and
but Jalen Hurts is now in a very perfect situation and wasn't always, and he can make things happen when things aren't there. I'm more worried about Philly, and I think Philly's defense is better.
And Dak has been there when we get to the playoffs. I mean, Jalen Hurts has not been in the playoffs yet, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's see.
Has Dak won a game?
Well, he's been there.
Okay. He can join the pantheon of Tony Romo playoff appearances as well.
That's fine though, but still, he's been there where Jalen Hurts. Who knows? He turned to a pumpkin when you get to the much brighter lights of a playoff game.
Well, let's hope they both do.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm just gonna shrug at that because I don't know. I feel like neither team has really come crashing back to earth yet, and it has to happen eventually because neither one of them are the perfect team.
I don't think the Eagles are an 11-1 team. They're they are, you know, it's those two. I think especially now that San Francisco's, effectively done.
Kaput.
Yeah, I mean, they're the two best teams in the NFC. And I don't know.
I got to be honest. I'm
I
not.
don't
I'm
like
not even
either
paying
team.
attention. I don't really. I'm not worried about that right now. Like right now, I'm focused on us getting where we need to be. Because much as I would like this show to be where we can talk about I guess like the
Oh, I'm not
division,
worrying.
the league. I know, but I mean, I want that to be the case, right? Like I want us to be in Dallas's spot where like, who do we have to worry about? Like, let's look ahead a little bit. Like, I can't even do that because we can't even beat the Commanders. You know what I mean? Like, we had a lead, we blew it on a bad tackle. We can't connect on deep shots where the safety had his back to the receiver and had to loop around. The Giants have their own issues right now, and I just walked out of a stadium in which it felt like we lost, but we didn't lose.
Forget the fans for a minute. How do you think the Washington team itself feels coming out of that game? Do you think they're disappointed they tied? Do you think they're happy they got the tie? What do you think they feel about this game? The Giant team, I'm pretty sure, is very disappointed that they lost.
I think
or
that they're I think they're less. I don't know, man. I think that they're probably less disappointed than the Giants team. I think the way they come away with that is kind of like a shrug. Like you know what? That's not so bad. You know, they started out the year bad. They've been on a roll. They still haven't had a fucking bye week. And this is their last game before the bye, and they managed to bring it back. They started fast, scored 10 points quick. You know, they came a little bit crashing back to earth. They fell behind, but they were able to tie it back up, and they didn't lose the tie either.
I gotta be honest. I thought was a potential we were gonna get boat raced pretty early on in that game. I don't know how you were
because
feeling.
of the way it started.
Yeah,
I was willing to hang. I was willing to hang out for a minute because the fumble was also. It wasn't like. If that had been like Daniel Jones steps back in the pocket and gets strip sacked and, we're at our own 23 and Washington gets the ball there, it'd be a little bit different. But he was running up the middle and like even the fumble was like, did he fumble? I can't even see. Like, I don't know. I was still kind of hanging out there for a minute because they didn't have the ball on their side of the field even. I don't think they'd started their first two possessions with such ridiculous field position. I was like, well, let's see them drive down the field first.
right. But I just don't know what kind of offense we have if we fall behind 17 points to a team. It's like,
it's true.
It's a tall order, and we were getting close. There was a potential for that happening, and fortunately it didn't.
I have no more notes on this game.
I don't. I just the frustration is it was a wasted opportunity. We need division wins, and that was.
We still don't have one.
We still don't have one.
That's pathetic.
That's pathetic, and we're gonna have only one more opportunity to have one at home, and unfortunately, it's against a team that's 11-1.
Yeah, statistically the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was a huge missed opportunity for the Giants. They needed to win this game. They didn't. Now they've kicked the can down the road to the must-win game being away on a shitty, muddy grass field in a shitty dump of a stadium, and playing a team that gets to get some of its players back because they have a 13-day bye.
Right.
Chase Young will most likely be back and ready to play in that game. They managed to skirt by without that for this game, and they couldn't take advantage of it. So this was a huge missed opportunity. I feel like shit about it. It's only going to get harder from here. And now it's at the point where they need to win against Washington and Indy to have a shot. And they've put themselves in this situation. So
we don't.
I guess I can't complain though because it's still better than I expected at the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah. I mean, and again, this is the NFL, and crazy things happened, and these are teams.
And we could beat Philly next week.
Yeah, I'm saying, would it shock me of shockers if we beat Philly at home next week? Mm-hmm. Would not be the most shocking thing that happened in my lifetime. I wouldn't go to Vegas and bet on it, but you know, could we go down that same escalator like we did last week and have 180-degree difference in emotion coming out? It's
Sure.
possible.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly would put it right up there with how I felt about us beating Baltimore,
Yeah, yeah.
which I didn't expect at all either. So
I know we're kind of trampling on our Thursday pod, but do you think you will see, because it's an increase in uh, talent level we're playing against, maybe a little more of that go for it kind of mentality of more aggressiveness with fourth downs and things like that, or you think this shellness more is just that's the way it's going to be the rest of the year?
I think they'll be more aggressive against opponents they don't think they can beat.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of the gun shy behavior comes from like, well, we should beat this team, so let's not do
Hmm.
anything to get to beat us, which I
Yeah.
think you saw against Houston, and I think you saw it
Yep.
against Washington this week.
Yep. And I think that'll be interesting to see, in the next couple of years as we get more talent. And it doesn't become a question of having to coach so much. Can talent win games more than just having to do that type of stuff? It'll be interesting to see how this coaching staff handles it.
I hate this episode and I hate this game. A tie is stupid. I hate talking about it. So we're gonna
Better than
wrap
a
this
loss.
up in. Yeah, it's better than a loss, but it doesn't feel like it.
The
It feels
tailgate was a
exactly the
win.
same. Tailgate was fantastic. Got to meet lots of people. Got to see people for the first time. Got to see, people like Bobby, who we haven't seen in like a year. No, we
Yeah.
saw him over the summer. But yeah, we don't get to see those people a lot. It was cool getting everybody together. It was a gigantic extravaganza with food and all that, like a catered food, I should say.
Yeah.
It was
No, it's
fun.
good.
We played a little trivia game too, in which we kind of embarrassed ourselves a little.
We backed into a 3 for 3 with trivia questions. That was pretty amazing.
um, like most things I think that we do is
We're
we get
embarrassingly being
we are
successful.
Shaggy and Scooby solving the mystery by falling down the stairs. That's what we are. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. As always, follow us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. Twitter @football_grump, @the Cranky Fan, @JustGiantsPod. We will see you guys Friday morning with our Eagles podcast. And until then, go Giants.